we live in a very conflicted, polarized time in history. Perhaps it was always conflicted and polarized, but we can only pay attention to our world and how it is today. There are too many boundaries in our lives. There are too many boundaries of nations, of races, of people, of our ideas that we have set up in our mind, our prejudices, which separate the whole world into us and them. And this is a delusion. And it is this delusion that causes most of the conflicts in our lives. We have to make a conscious effort to thin these boundaries, to, as far as we can, dissolve them. Boundaries are very important, by the way. If we look at life, we see that everything is bounded. There is a boundary that's necessary and good, and there is a boundary that is man-made and artificial and false and totally not the truth. So what is this boundary that is not the truth? It is the boundary that we make between people, between different types of people, between different colors and races and genders. And it is a very destructive boundary because it always assumes that you are somehow very superior to that which you are bounding off. But remember that boundaries cut you off as well as protect you. So you have to find out which boundaries confine you, limit you, and which boundaries you need to break. So these boundaries are at once external and internal. So the external ones are very evident. They are between what I talked about, countries, nations, political parties, races, people, blacks versus whites, browns, yellows, purples. We are all one, and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. And if you want to realize that, you have to dissolve some inner boundaries, because inner boundaries ultimately are much more destructive than external boundaries. External boundaries begin with internal boundaries. If you have too many internal boundaries, you are boxed in. You're living in a little box, and you cannot see this whole big universe, the richness, the gift of it that we have inherited. So inner boundaries need to be dissolved first before we can dissolve external boundaries.